Hey crafty people! Welcome back to my channel, and in case you're new here, I'm Sarah, also known as Craft Nerd because I'm a nerd who loves to craft. I do paper crafting, card making, junk journaling, and mixed media art. Let's get crafting! So I've got my Eeyore mug because it is time for another mystery craft. So let's go ahead and stick our hand in and pull out Holtz People. Okay, I have a whole bunch of Holtz People and I don't use them nearly often enough. So I'm going to pull out my people and have a little bit of a think as to what I want to create using them, and I will be right back. So as you can see, I have way too many Holtz People. I've got Christmas people, I picked up Photomatic, I've got just regular people, and then somehow I ended up with 2 packs of Halloween people. I don't know what on earth I was thinking or why I have 2 sets of Halloween peoples. Clearly they're from 2 different years, so I think what happened is I didn't think I had Halloween people and ended up buying a pack. I think this was from 2023 and this is maybe 2022. And I accidentally bought it and then realized after I did so that I in fact had the people. So yeah, I've got too many people. So I am going to pull out some people. I think I'm going to hold off on doing Photomatic because I kind of got those to do some ID cards, and I don't think that's what I want to do today. I think I want to work on creating maybe some tags using the Holtz People. So let's start with this pack and let's pull out some people. Sorry about the noise. Let's see who we have and pick out a few that we might like. I actually kind of really like her, so let's grab her. Pull him out. Okay, so I have gone ahead and pulled out a bunch of people and a bunch of bits and bobs and a whole bunch of stuff. So, to start with, for some of my people, I want to be able to add some color to them, particularly the ladies. I think the gentlemen are going to stay black and white. If you've ever played with Holtz paper dolls, you know the surface of them is kind of slick. So you've got some options for what you can do to address that. One is you can give them a coating of clear gesso. Another is you can emboss the entire piece with some frosted crystal. And I think that's what I'm going to do because it's just going to go faster than if I had to cover them with clear gesso and then wait for them to dry. So I'm just going to take an embossing ink in a dauber and apply it to my peoples. And to protect my work surface, I'm just going to stick that down. Now I'm not squeezing the bottle, I'm just pressing down to get the ink out. And I'm going to do this in 2 waves just because it'll be easier to do it that way than to try and get the whole thing covered in one go. And then I'm going to grab a separate piece of paper that doesn't have the ink on it, set that down so that I can catch the excess embossing powder and just shake on some embossing powder, tap off any excess. And then I'm going to go ahead and heat set this before I dauber the rest of it. And I'm going to do that off camera just so that I don't have to put that away and move it. And I'm just going to turn away for a sec. Okay, so I'm looking at it and she looks pockmarked. Like I didn't get a full and complete coverage. So I'm going to go ahead and do another layer over top what I did to hopefully fill in the gaps, because I'm not loving the look of the frosted crystal. All right, so that's definitely better, but I honestly think I may like using the clear gesso better. I'm going to finish obviously this one off with the embossing powder, but I think I'm going to clear gesso the other ones. Okay, so I've gone ahead and finished covering her with the frosted crystals, and yeah, there's a tackiness to her, so the inks will stay on. And I've gone ahead and done the other girls using the clear gesso, and I definitely think I like the clear gesso better. And here's one straight out of the packaging. So let me get up close to the camera so hopefully you can see the difference in what they look like. Yeah, I definitely think from now on I'm going to be using the clear gesso and not the frosted crystals. Let me clear some space so that I can actually ink up the images. So I'm going to just move this stuff out of the way, because what I'm going to do for her is I think I'm going to grab some Shabby Shutters, put it on my mat, and grab a paintbrush, add a little water, and I'm gonna see if we're gonna get any color on there. Not, I was hoping the polka dots would, because they're lighter, pick up some of the color. Not so much. All right. Uh-oh, I missed a spot with the gesso. I can tell because it's still shiny. I'm gonna have to go back and do that. Oh, this is just not working how I want it to. All right. For her, I'm gonna come in with some Shabby Shutters and a paintbrush and paint it on to give some color to the white parts of her dress. I'm also going to add it to her sash, which is not going to show up very much, but over top of that, I plan on adding some bundled sage embossing glaze, so that should make her sash really pop. So let's set her aside. I'm just trying to decide. I think this one's going to get a little Shabby Shutters again on her sash and for the bow in her hair. Okay, so I've got a few spots over here I need to touch up. I think she's good. I'm going to set her aside. I think I'm going to darken up and like a little bit more color to her bow. Her aside. And then for her, I touched up the spot I missed on her dress. I'm going to do her whole dress in bundled sage. All right, I am going to set her aside. Now for her, let's do her hat in bundled sage at least, because that should be light enough that we see the color on it, and yet still not so much. I'm going to try some peeled paint distress oxide ink and see if that works better for her. It's not working at all. I'm going to have to do a Google search, because I could have sworn I saw a video where I think it was Tim Holtz said to use the frosted crystal to cover the dolls, to give it some tooth to catch the inks, and this is not working at all. Like, that ink is, well, I guess it's working a little bit, but not so much. Alrighty, I'm gonna have to do a little bit of research and figure out what the heck I did wrong with this one. So what I think I'm gonna end up doing for her is, another option for adding color is to use an embossing glaze, which will add some subtle color. So what I'm gonna do is grab my Zig embossing writer. And so yeah, we're gonna end up adding yet another layer of embossing powder on this one. This will hopefully get me what I want. And I'm just gonna use my finger to kind of push it off her belt. And then I'm gonna emboss off camera. And I'm really not noticing that much of a difference. I was really hoping to get the dots to look a little green. All right, I am gonna finish doing the rest of her just so because there's a little bit of a difference so that it's consistent for her whole dress. All right, so we've got a very small, subtle greenish-ness to her dress. Not exactly what I was hoping for, but I'm gonna leave it alone at this point. She's done. For this little girl, I'm gonna pull out Victorian Velvet and make her dress pink. Set her aside. For this little girl, I think I'm going to add some Victorian Velvet to the flowers in her basket. But I'm going to leave her dress white. Likewise, on this one, I'm going to add Victorian Velvet to the flowers in her hat, which it's kind of dark, so I don't know how much, you know, some you've got some white flowers in there, so it'll pick up some of the color, but it won't be very much. There will be, you know, the darker spots aren't going to show the color so much. And we'll do the same with the flowers in her hand. Now for this lady, I'm going to do something a little different. I'm going to use Kitsch Flamingo, which I know seems kind of crazy. Hopefully this is going to work. For her sash and the flower, I'm going to emboss it with Embossing Glaze, and I pretty much only have Kitsch Flamingo and Tattered Rose. And so I figure if I put the Kitsch Flamingo underneath, since the glaze is translucent, the Tattered Rose over top will show some of the pink underneath, so it'll hopefully be the color I'm looking for. Fingers crossed. This little girl, I want to color her hair. And we're going to use a little Fossilized Amber Distress Oxide and brush Corduroy to kind of blend together for her hair color. I think I'm just gonna tap a little bit off. There we go. That's what I was looking for. So she needs embossing glaze on her sash. She needs embossing glaze on her sash. And I think her bow. I think I'm gonna do her bow as well. And I've got bundled sage again. This time I'm gonna use a little scoop. And I'm gonna pull out my pen again. Just color in her sash. Embossing ink. Kind of do it over the jar since it's such a small spot. and it is sticking in a few spots. So I'm just going to take a dry brush and brush off the glaze that is sticking where I don't want it. I'm going to set it aside for a second and go ahead and do this girl so that we can just emboss them together. And now I'm going to emboss. All right, and we're going to do the same thing with her for her sash. Emboss that. So it just adds an interesting little accent to our people to have that little bit of shine. So let's set those guys aside and we are gonna start assembling. Let's start with our problem child. So I have pulled stuff out for decorating, and most of the tag bases I've pulled out for this project are ones that were inked as part of my 6 techniques using stencils video. I will leave a link to that down below. So this was one of the techniques where we used the dauber to put embossing powder, and I used Tattered Rose embossing glaze on this one. And then these pieces are laser cuts by 49 and Market for, I think it's Blossom is the color. And I'm going to use a little Victorian Velvet to ink the edges of the flower and the button. So instead of putting a hole in the top for the top of our tag, we're just going to put the button accent on there. And then I'm going to go with Shabby Shutters for the leaf part of this guy. And with the laser cuts, you don't really need to ink the edges. I'm just hoping this will help it stand out a little bit more on the background. And I'm going to use Shabby Shutters to ink the edges of this guy. And this is a printable by Shabby Dabby Doodah. In fact, all of the printables I'm using on this one are Shabby Dabby Doodah. And the reason I'm inking the edges on these is because in case there's any white showing from not cutting them out very well, the inking will take care of that. All right, let's cut some tag corners onto this piece. And this is a template I made out of an old gift card, so it makes it just a little bit easier to cut my tags. So there's our tag shape. I'm going to use art glitter glue for my assembly. You can use whatever glue you prefer. Okay, I am going to glue top down. So I'm adding a little glue. Am I on screen? Let me check. Oh no, I'm not. Sorry about that. Okay, this is what I get for not marking on my mat where showing up on screen is. Okay, so I'm adding a little glue to the top of the stem here to tack this label in place. Then I'm gonna add a little glue to her dress. Just a little on the edge here to kind of tack her in place. Then I can flip the whole thing over and glue things down. Now, without losing the order that they were in on the page, because that tends to happen when you lift the stuff up. So the label needs a little bit more glue. The stem needs a little bit more glue. She's going to be standing on this label, so that needs to go like that. So I think I'm just going to add a little bit to the edge of that and to her feet, and add that like that. I think will work. All right, so there's one Tim Holtz People tag done. The next one is this little girl, and I'm just gonna put her at the very bottom. And the reason I'm doing this one so small is because I'm feeling the need to do another tab bound booklet out of the chapter 3 pieces. So this will fit into the one of the dies that I use for creating that. Now I think I'm going to trim off around here because I just don't think we need all of this over here. Because I think her dress ends here. If you don't know, the Tim Holtz People come from real vintage photos that they, you know, remove the backgrounds from and do all that too. And I think this is probably some just background noise that still made it in. But yeah, I like that better. And another of the Shabby Debbie Doodah labels, which is going to go about there. Now I'm going to glue my paper doll to the label. I am going to pull this away because what I want to add is a green butterfly from, this is the 49 Market Moonlit Garden Rub-Ons. Yeah, as I was putting these guys together, I spent a good hour like pulling stuff out, auditioning it, deciding what I wanted to use. So yeah, I figured that was just going to be too much tedium for doing in the video and more than you'd be interested in. So I'm going to stick that there. I'm going to get something firm to go behind, just because it'll work better for the rub-on. I've got this notepad. This should help. I'm going to move her out of the way now that I've placed the butterfly and just use a pencil. And I think this page was a cleanup sheet from when I was making the backgrounds for the... So let's peel that up. There we go. And we're just going to add her onto there. And I do want to round my corners real quick. And I did pick up another corner rounder. I usually have the We Are Memory Keepers one, and this one just got 3 sizes instead of the 2 on the We Are Memory Keepers, and I wanted to give it a try, so I think we're going to use the smallest one. And there we go. That card is all ready. And did I say? I don't know. I'm losing my mind, I think. This was, I think, a cleanup page for making the backgrounds for the 6 stencil technique video. So she's done. Let's switch gears and do one of the gentleman ones. Now, for this one, these are an Elizabeth Craft Design die. It's hardware hinges, I think. And I die cut it out of one of the papers I created when I was doing the faux rust and leather techniques. And then I've got the gentleman, and I die cut out the cane from the Tim Holtz Sizzix die called Gentleman, and I don't know the number off the top of my head, and I did not grab the little sheet that came with it, so I'll leave that information down below. I think I want to add, because I die cut it out of black, but it's a little too stark black, so I want to add some foundry wax, and I think with the embossing that I did in the gold that the statue's going to work best for this. Alright, I'm just gonna put a little on my finger and rub it on to the die. Now keep in mind, foundry wax is not permanent until like you need to heat set it for it to do its thing. So I'm gonna grab my heat gun and let it do its thing. So definitely like that better. I'm thinking I might add, I'm gonna use a little walnut stain crayon on here so that it's not as shiny. That, yes, just barely on screen. Okay. Oi, I'm batting 1,000 this afternoon. Sorry about that. All right, I now have a piece of tape on there so I will know where the bottom edge of the video footage is so that I stay within the frame of what's getting recorded. All right, so this is a label by Love Junk Journal. Now for this one, I am going to ink the edges with Scorched Timber. And just glue that down there. He gets the cane in his hand, but I'm going to put this one on underneath. So he needs to move over. Yeah, that's where that's gonna go. So let's glue it on. Let's see, let's add the rest of the hinges on. Then I figured this could be a little tab at the top. So let's add this guy. And now I need to grab some brads. And I've grabbed my We're a Memory Keepers Crocodile to punch holes in the tag so that we can add brads. Go ahead and add our gentleman on. And I'm just gonna avoid putting any glue under his hand so that we can tuck his cane underneath. And then just add a little glue on his hand. And we need to clip our corners. And I want to ink my edges with Scorched Timber. So there we go, that's that guy. Now, unlike with the other ones where I had a bunch of leftover inked backgrounds, this was a cutoff from, I don't know what project I was working on, but I want to use it to create a double-sided, like, over-the-page tag. And I'm just shifting stuff around because I think I'm missing one of the pieces I pulled out for this one. I seem to have lost a butterfly. All right. It's probably on my desk somewhere. So we're just gonna go ahead and start working on this one, and maybe I will find it. Now I wanna start by doing some stamping on the background to add a little bit more interest. And I am gonna use Floral Trims CMS 461. And I think I may end up using both of them, just switching out one on each side. And I'm gonna stamp it just to create some more background interest. And I'm gonna grab my mouse pad to make it easier to stamp with, and a block. And I'm going to use Scorched Timber Distress ink. Apparently missed a little bit, but that's okay. Again, this is just to add a little background interest to the project. So what I'm adding to the background is, it's an acetate piece by 49 and Market. And we're gonna add her on there. And I had a butterfly that was gonna go over here, which has flown off. So I am going to glue this down like so. And I'm going to use Barely Arts glue for this, just because it works a little bit better with like acetates. And I'm going to add the glue where the image is mostly, so that it hopefully won't show up too much. And I'm gonna go ahead and cut my corners. This way, when we do the backside and add the butterfly, I don't have to worry about its placement. I'll know that it's not going to run afoul of our cut off corners. And I'm gonna flip it over. And on the side, I'm gonna add this leaf, these leaves, this little girl, and then I've got the acetate butterfly to go up there. So let's add those on. All right, so the pack is Vintage Artistry Essential Mini Foliage. And so I'm just gonna find another butterfly to stick on this side. All right, so we're gonna use this guy. Glue all over the place by sending it flying. Let's get back on screen all the way. Now, once the glue is completely dry, it should disappear so that you don't notice it. And I am going to trim off the bits overhanging. Let's do that. And we've got another finished tag with people. Okay, so we've got 3 more tags to put together, and I did do a little bit of research and figured out what the problem is. I bought the wrong frosted crystals embossing powder. I bought the regular frosted crystals and not the distress frosted crystals, which I'm just gonna say it's not the best move to have almost the exact same name on two very different products. But yeah, that's what went wrong with her, is I bought the wrong embossing powder. So I don't know if I'm going to pick up the distress frosted crystal embossing glaze so that I can give it a try or not, but that's what went wrong with that one. All right, so we got this gentleman. Let's set the other ones aside, and I think I want to do a little bit of background stamping on this, and I am going to grab Tim Holtz Stampers Anonymous Faded Type CMS 397. I think I'm going to go with the Hickory Smoke Distress Oxide. And I'm not even going to bother putting this on a block. I am, however, going to grab my mouse pad just because it makes it easier to get a good stamped impression. And I'm going to ink my stamp. And then I think I'm going to spritz it with a little bit of water. So I just gave it a quick spritz of water, and I'm going to stamp there. And then I'm going to ink the other end of the stamp up. Again, spritz with water. I'll stamp down here. Just adding a little bit more interest to the background. I'm going to grab my heat tool and dry that off. The gentleman's going to go about there, and I'm going to use some All & Create washi tape to ground him. You'll notice on all the tags that I've been doing, I've had the person standing on something because it just looks weird if you have them floating in the air. So I'm going to use this, and let's just cut a piece off. Cut right there. I'm going to add a little bit of glue stick to the back of this just to ensure that it stays stuck, theoretically. Although I don't have much luck with glue stick, so not sure if it's actually going to help with the washi tape much. And I've got my gentleman who's going to stand right there. And I cut out the umbrella from the gentleman's die set. And what I'm going to do for that, just to add a little bit more interest to it, since I cut it out of just plain black paper, is I'm going to take some Distress Oxide Hickory Smoke ink and ink the bottom up with that, so it's not quite a flat black anymore. And then for the handle, I'm going to use Foundry Wax in Sterling. I think I got it mixed up enough. The ball in this one is not moving, but I think that's just the way the silver one is the ball doesn't make as much noise. But I'm going to add the silver to the handle in the Foundry Wax. And again, you have to heat set Foundry Wax. So let me do that. And as I did last time, I'm going to grab a little Distress Crayon. Let's do some black soot and just add a little bit of it to kind of knock back the brightness of the Foundry Wax. All right, so that just has a bit more pizzazz to it than it did before. He's going to go about here, and I'm going to give him butterfly wings, which this is another rub-on by 49 and Market. And so I am going to go like this. I'm going to line it up on him. I'm going to line him up on here in a spot that the wings will fit on the page. Yep, okay. Stick that down and then grab a pencil. Now, the rub-ons do come with a little tool for doing this little like plastic thing, but I have found that the pencil works better. Like, I struggle to get it to rub on with the tool that comes with it. Don't have any problems with the pencil. And so just peel it back slowly, and then this way, if there's anything you didn't rub on, you can go back and do that, because it'll release easily once it's down all the way. And if it's not down all the way, you can just lay it back down and get the bits back on that you missed. All right, so there we go. I am gonna attach the handle under his hand. And again, using art glitter glue. Actually, before I do that, I'm looking at this going, I should put foundry wax on the tip of the umbrella. It's gonna bug me if I don't. Just gonna add a little bit to the very bottom tip of the umbrella. I know you can probably hardly see it on screen, but I can see it. It was bugging me. Let's heat set it. And now we can glue him on. I'm just going to use my little template to cut the corners. I think I want hole reinforcer. Let's go with the gear. And these are an Elizabeth Craft Design die. I think the sets, I think I've just got hole reinforcer 1. And I just cut a whole bunch of them out of book page and ink them up when I want to use them. And I think I'm going to ink that up with some Hickory Smoke Distress ink. There we go. And I'm going to do one more thing. I'm going to add, it's a Tim Holtz Idea-ology hardware head to the center of like that. I'm just going to put the glue down on here and add, oops, the hardware head, have it fall out of my hands and land upside down. All right, so that one's done. Let's bring this lovely lady back over. So for her, I have got, this is one of the label dies by Tim Holtz that you put the ink on, and I think it's either distress labels or vintage labels. I forget what it's called. She's gonna sit on there like that. This is a piece of washi tape on some book page. I was testing it out and it stuck down really well, so I went with it. So that's gonna go here. I think she's scooting, needs to scoot over a smidge. And then another acetate piece from 49 and Market. It's gonna go, yeah, let's scoot all of this over a little bit. And I'm gonna do a little trimming so it fits better where I want it. I think I'm gonna trim off this bit of stem here. And I'm gonna add a little bit of a notch over here. Just to get it curved like so, and she'll sit there. This will go about here. Now, I don't like those sticking out over there, so I am going to trim those off. What I think I'm going to do is flip her over. Glue stuff on her, and I'm going to use Barely Arts with the acetate because I think it works a little bit better than art glitter glue. So I'm just going to add glue along here on her to attach it to her, so we've got the positioning right. I'm going to come in with my scissors and trim the tips of those leaves off. That looks, yep, that's what I want. And then this piece I want to go right about there. So I'm going to add the glue and then flip it over again so that I can line it up exactly where I want it. I want it kind of like that. Now let's attach our label to our piece. And then add her on. Sure. Oh no. Good thing I use Barely Arts glue because I want the bottom of the washi underneath the label. So it needs to be like so. And I'm actually going to add art glitter glue on the paper bits because I think it sticks a little bit quicker and faster than the Barely Arts. There we go. And I am going to trim off the pieces that are overhanging, just so I don't have any issues with this not going into a pocket neatly. All right, again, template, corners. And I think I'm going to round these corners using the smallest. Yep, just a little rounding on the corners. All right. I do feel like it should get a hole and some fiber at the top. I'm gonna hold off on doing that because I've got to go across the room to get my fibers. I'll come back to her. Let's finish up the other tag and then I can get fibers for her. All right, so I'm not sure yet if I'm going to use this. This is a Tim Holtz X die on this piece, but I pulled it out. So what I want to do is I first want to ink it, and I'm going to ink it with Scorched Timber. And to protect my work surface, I'm going to ink it on a piece of paper so that I don't have to clean up my work surface again. So this little fellow is leaning against something. So these are tickets by 49 and Market. Let's ink their edges. And actually, I think I may want to flip this around and have more of the honeycomb pattern showing. So I've got him leaning on this ticket, standing on this ticket, and then I'm trying to decide if I want to put some of this behind him. And I kind of want to, I think. The only problem I'm having is I don't love the hard edge. So maybe this is what we need to do. And then add something over here to cover that hard edge up. So these are the 49 M Market ticket and faux stamps, and they come in like boxes in a roll, which is great, but I find I tend to forget to use them, so I moved them into my little stamp collecting folder thingies. I think I'm also going to add a little bit of book page behind him. All right, I want to ink the edges of this. All right, I am going to try and assemble this in place. All right. I am definitely, this is one of those, I'm like, I need everybody to line up just right. And trying to get that to happen is gonna be a bit fiddly. And that book page is completely not where I wanted it to be. Okay. I did not mean for any of it. I just meant for it to cover the gap that was here. Did not mean for it to be showing over there. Sure. I think I'm going to take a brush and just add some ink on it so that it's less noticeable over here. All right. All right, we're gonna trim this off. Did I not get glue on his head? Or just not get glue in the right spots on his head? All right. Let's cut our corners. And I really think I want to pull out another 49 and mark it. This is the Vintage Artistry Countryside. And what I want is, I think I want one of the bees up in this corner. I think one of the scribbly ones is going to work best, as opposed to the ones with a lot of yellow. And I think I'm going to wait and decide later if I'm going to put a topper on. So apparently either I didn't film me adding the hole reinforcer and the fibers to this tag, or my phone ate it. So there's this one all done. And then we have this guy. Then we have this girl. And the little one. And our double-sided over the page tag. And then our gentleman. We got that fellow. This one with the butterfly wings. And this fellow with the bumblebees. So there are all of our Tim Holtz people for our mystery craft. So that's all for today. If you enjoyed this video, please do all the things that lets YouTube know you enjoyed the video. Like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, leave me a comment down below. Thanks for joining me, and happy crafting.